How's it going, guys? So today we're doing a video on the top 30, I said 30, things you're probably going to have to do to a BMW E60 when you first buy it. I know what you're thinking. Why is there 30 things? Well, because I stopped the list at that point, to be honest with you. I'm making this video, and this is on the fact I need to do some engine mounts on this thing, even though they feel good. We're getting the vibration, the creaking and cracking when you turn the wheel, and that's that. So, I have a list. It's so long I have to get a list. Hold on, let's run through this real quick. So this video is pretty much for E60s with 100,000 miles or over. That's when all the fun usually starts, and I try to organize this list where it's somewhat together, but you know, it is what it is. The very first thing you're gonna have to do, and these cars have a bad rap. The previous owners never take care of them. Mine's actually kind of dirty right now. It's probably saying that about me. The control arms. The control arms is the thrust arm. There's a lower and the sway bar links. You get it all in one kit. And the ball joints. Those pretty much, you're going to have to spec to do that. And what you're going to see a lot when you hit bumps, you're going to hear a clunking noise. When you turn the wheel, it'll have like a thud at the sway bar links. It's an endless situation. So you're looking probably 100. I think they're like 130 for the whole setup if you get the tie rods and everything with it. Next up, the foggy or broken headlights. I replaced the lenses in mine, which I never recommend you ever doing, but I had to. My lens fell out in one of them. And you can see why they look good, but look at the condensation in this, if you could even see that. Now, I've resealed that like 3 times, and other people were saying too, once you pull that eyebrow out, you're screwed. So the next up is going to be the interior is going to be dirty. You know why? Because people don't take care of their stuff. And mine's not the cleanest in the world. You probably can't even see it. But when I first got this car, we had to strip it all out. We had to take all the seats out, all the panels out. You know, the previous owner had spilt soda and stuff down between the seats, and there was like sticky suckers. In America, that's getting to be almost a given with a used car. People are just nasty. I don't know why that is. Don't blame me. It's just what it is. The next one's going to be the cup holders. The cup holders in these cars, the same way. Most of them you see are broken. I actually fixed, my one was broken, I fixed it. And they get soda spilled in them and hard telling what. That's going to be the next thing, so just give you a fair warning, you might have to replace those. The next one is the power cable. So when you get these cars, you're probably going to have passenger side seat belt issues, and where in the trunk has the IBS system, which is on the positive battery terminal. That goes bad. That's in case you crash, it cuts that off. Also the recall where the power cable goes through the trunk of the car and goes under the car, that recall causes that. Just tons of stuff, and one thing you can guarantee, 100% guarantee, whichever model BMW you get, the battery is going to be junk. The battery will be junk. So you say, Nathan, you fat ass, why do you even care? Well, that's going to keep you from coating the car. That's going to keep you from updating the car. That's going to keep you from doing all that stuff. And that brings me to that. I'm skipping around the list here a little bit, but updates. These cars do not do well without updates. In America, nobody does the updates, the software updates. And nobody knows how to code stuff. Nobody knows how to do anything. Nobody knows how to program or anything. And in other countries, that's not really the case. Here, that is 110% the case. And that, you know, we updated this one that changes your shift patterns, it changes the timing, changes the fuel. There's a lot to it that makes a car just a lot more drivable. And also, just a recap on the battery here, another common issue we see with the battery is when somebody replaces it, and goes to an acid battery, they don't program it to the car until the car has acid battery in it. Then the car doesn't charge right, and then everybody's trying to replace the alternator all the time because it's not charging correctly, or overcharged or undercharged. I forget what the system was. If you have a scanner, a basic scanner like the Creator C310, you could program with that, with a lot of stuff. With this, the D, you can scan it, it'll recognize it automatically. It's not a big deal. But if you don't do that, you get 100% overcharge your battery. So, moving on the list here, the power steering. One thing you can guarantee, whether it's N54, whether it's N52, N62, M5, the power steering's got to be leaking. Right here is the reservoir, the tank for it. That has a filter in the bottom. You have to replace that. On this car, we replaced both lines when we did the engine job. Did it all in one go. The next up is going to be guaranteed sooner or later, whether when you get it or after you're driving it for a little bit, is the expansion tank's going to be cracked or it's going to be dripping. This one, I thought it was okay at first. After we put some miles on it, it was leaking. It was cracked. It was cracked where the level sensor goes in. Just had a slow drip, and if you keep driving it like that, you're going to get an air bubble in your system. Once it hits your water pump, it's not going to pump. It's going to just wreck everything. Gonna wreck everything. So plan on doing that. You need to put a good quality. You could buy ones like I bought, like the Febby Bilstein. You could buy those for, I think I paid $40-ish for that. So don't buy a China one. The China ones will definitely leak. The radiator hoses. So the radiator hoses on this one, which is a pretty funny story. This car has 92,000 miles on it too, by the way, in case any of you are wondering. So after I did the engine swap, this engine was blowing up. The upper radiator hose and the lower radiator hose were both bad. And they weren't bad. The hose wasn't bad. The plastic where the coupler is was dripping, had a crack in it. So you gotta figure on at least inspecting that stuff. If they look old and brown at all or look deteriorated, they have to go. Let me see here. Try not to do anything twice. Yeah, so also this little water neck right here is a little hose, and that water neck deteriorates. You have to tend to that. You can actually buy metal ones for those now. Let me see here. The wheels ruined or bent. There's one thing about buying a BMW. Well, that wheel's not ruined or bent because it's not there. I bought, I don't even know, 100 BMWs over the last 10 years. I don't know, about that many. It's very rare that you get one in, the wheels are not bent or curb rashed or have brake dust caked on them so bad that there's no hope. So this car was no different. They were bent and caked with brake dust and eroded and curbed, had all three of the qualities. So we replaced these. These are replica wheels. I don't even remember. I think from M3. I can't remember anything anymore, to be honest with you. ABS lights. You're going to have some ABS lights more than likely. If your car is 4x4 like this one is, or X-Drive, you're going to have a lot more likelihood of you're going to have to deal with some ABS problems, whether it's sensor related, whether it's the ECU related. That also goes into the light module that's related to the ABS system, and on and on and on and on. Check engine lights. If you buy a used BMW with 100,000 miles or over and you don't have a check engine light, just wait. It's coming. It's coming. So next thing, the probably most expensive thing here is the water pump. The N52 models of this car, so 2006 and up, is going to have an electronic water pump, and the water pump thermostat and adjoining hoses will have to be replaced. If you bought it and has 100,000 miles on it, it probably has not been done yet, and your day's coming. Trust me. Some guys get 150, 160,000 miles out of them. Some guys get 80,000 miles out of them. You could always check the date on the pump itself, and that'll tell you what the status of it is. The Van Oil solenoids. The Van Oil solenoids are right under here. And you can see they are right there. That advances the timing at cold start, all the time when you're driving. Pretty much just 100% of the time. And the tricky thing about those are, here in the States, you have two choices on Van Oil solenoids. Chinese for 30 to 60 bucks, or you have OEM, which are 350 bucks. There's no other choice. Not many people make those. I got lucky when I replaced these with Chinese solenoids. They didn't advance right, which is what you had to expect. They were okay. I mean, they would work if they really absolutely had to. But luckily, I had Dean over in United Kingdom send me a set of OEM ones. Over there, they get them a lot cheaper than we could get them. The next one, the cracked valve cover. Just as sure as the sun's going to come up tomorrow, you're going to have a cracked valve cover. And another thing too, don't even put the bolts back in that. I know that's the wrong color. It just kind of is what it is. The valve cover is going to crack either into the PVC system, which is back there, or it's going to crack somewhere back in this area. Once it does that, you're going to have burnt oil smell. You're going to take the valve cover off, replace the gasket, put it back on. It's still going to leak. It's still going to stink. Luckily, you could buy the valve covers now for about 100 bucks. Like 110, 115 bucks. That comes with the PVC, PCV, everything in it. No problem at all. So let me see where we're at here. That brings me to the bad PCV hose, which runs from the rear of the valve cover under the intake and has two different ports. And it is a hard plastic line, just like the older cars, and they get to where they get brittle, especially at the connections. A lot of times when you pull the valve cover off, people or guys break those PVC hoses where they snap on the back of the valve cover. You must take the intake off to replace that. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. That's just kind of the way it is. Failing starter. N52s in America with the heat here tend to wreck the starters. And it's just kind of the way it is. Other countries in colder climate or nicer climate, and close this a little bit, maybe it's a little too much light, don't really have that problem too much. If you're going to pull the intake to do the PVC hose or anything like that, put a new starter on it. Because if not, you'll be at Walmart in your pajamas one day and you'll go out and your car's not going to start. Just the way it is. I don't make the rules. I'm just a messenger, so don't get mad at me. Oil pan leaking. So N52 and N54, both the newer and older engines, all have oil pan leaking problems. The oil pan on the newer N52, which is what this is, has aluminum bolts because the block is magnesium, so you can't use metal bolts, and they like to back out. Don't know why. Yes, you can retighten them up. Even most people don't believe that. You can. You gotta be real careful. If you tighten them too tight, you're gonna snap them off. It is not uncommon to get one of these cars in leaking, seeping from the oil pan gasket, and you have to go and tighten all the bolts back up. You know, it's just kind of the way it is. M54, usually the bolts aren't loose, so usually if those are leaking, it's done. And sometimes these won't stop leaking either. By tightening the bolts up, you got to replace the pan gasket. The rear main seal leaking. In my days of BMW mechanicking, very few cars come through here. The rear main seal is not leaking, at least somewhat. I don't know why. It's just the way it is. So anytime you take a transmission out or an engine out to do anything, just go ahead and replace it. Use a good name brand seal. Don't use a Chinese seal. They're not expensive. I think this newer engine was $16 or maybe even less. Let me see here. Oil filter housing leaking. I mean, you know, you got to have the oil leaks. I'll move this out of the way here. The oil filter housing. On these newer engines, the bolts are aluminum. On the M54 older engines, they're metal. So, you know, it's just kind of the way it is. It's not really that difficult of a job. This has the extra cooler on the front. Most of the cars will not have that. And yeah, it's like a little O-ring seal. You have to replace that. It's not that big of a deal if you know how to do it. If not, you take it to a shop. It's probably going to cost you a bunch of money. Actually, this one actually has two O-rings on it, one for this front cooler and one for the housing itself. That's the same cooler what the turbo cars have, or a very similar design to that. So let me see here. Water neck deteriorated, we already hit that. The steering tilt. The E60 steering tilt. You just have not had a good day until your E60 steering tilt does not work. And the tilt button's right here, if you could even see that, no idea. But you can fully be assured that you can hit it and it's not going to do nothing. And they tend to break the gears in those. On my particular one, I could hear the engine or the little motor running. I hit the wrong button on the old phone there and kind of screwed everything up. The next one is if it's X-Drive, the front drive shaft. Any X-Drive car comes through, for some reason, the rear U-joint on the front drive shaft goes out about 100,000 miles, and usually they're seized up. This car had it, my E90 had it. That's super common. That shaft you could buy, I think like an average used one's about 80-90 bucks. You might be able to find a good used one. A new one's about $230, something like that. Depends on what it is and what year it is. You know, there's a lot of variables to it. They're super easy to put in though. There's 4 bolts on each flange. It comes right out. Rear drive shaft, flex joint, and carrier bearing. That is not such a common problem on the E60 as it is like E39 stuff. But like anything else, you get 100,000 miles, 120, 130,000 out of a flex disc. You're probably doing good. This one is still original in this car. It looks okay. It's not the best looking thing in the world. Eventually, we'll probably have to do it. I'm pretty easy on how I drive it though, so it'll probably last a while with me. If you're some little kid and flooring it all the time and trying to drift, then you might as well just go buy it right now. So let me see here. The transmission fluid overdue. There's a few things I'm always sure of in buying BMWs, and one thing is that nobody has changed the transmission fluid in your car. You will need a basic pump to refill that. On the post facelift LCI cars, some pre-LCI cars on the E60, the pan is built into the filter, so you have to buy a whole new pan for it. That used to be real expensive. It's not that much anymore. The way I do it, I could do the whole thing for around 80 bucks, 80, 90 bucks, something like that. It's not a big deal, but you can guarantee that it's going to be the original fluid or way overdue. And like I said at the beginning, I think I mentioned it, the engine mounts in this car are bad, even though they look fine. And that's getting my little bit of vibration on the engine. I can feel it on the steering wheel, on the accelerator pedal. Oxygen sensors failing. The oxygen sensors on these cars usually aren't too bad about failing, but the reason why I have this on the list, they do fail. The heater fails in them, or the wire gets gouged. They are very expensive to buy a new OEM one, OEM sensor. So a lot of people don't want to spend that money, and the car gets sold needing that. Whether it's a constant code or a random code, who really knows? Already covered the needing updates. The RDS system failure. The RDS is the run flat indicator. Chances are somebody's fiddled with something and broken a sensor in one of the wheels, or changed wheels and it doesn't have it, or didn't put them back in, or in this case, the ECU for that's in the trunk and it was just missing. A lot of times I get water in the trunk and do that and run them like that. And if you're really lucky, you won't have any water leaks. And if you follow the channel for a while, this car had water in the ECU box up here, and it flooded the ECU, and we had to get a new ECU and had to get it cloned to the old one. Also, water leaks, like I said, in the trunk. These could leak water through the door cards. They could leak water from the sunroof drains. They could leak water in many different ways. So before you buy one of these, always check the carpets. You can't check the ECU box, unfortunately. to see what's going on there. But that's gonna be it, guys. That's all 30. I could literally keep this video going for another hour. And yeah, that's gonna be it, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked the video, and we'll see you soon.